champion was crowned, and this week we hover on the precipice of a second claiming the title. Leskala needs a mere 5th place to wrap it up. Considering his record for this season, that's looking like a simple task. But will it be? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 11 of the Camel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Motegi is a lesser-used venue, both in real life and here on the sim. In case you're not familiar with it, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Twin Ring Motegi. This well-known Japanese racing facility located roughly 2 hours north of Tokyo gets its name from the fact that it has both an oval and a road course that can be run. But a unique feature of this track is that instead of having a roval layout, the road course is entirely separate from the oval circuit. On top of that, drivers have 3 different road courses to choose from in the form of the Grand Prix, East, and West circuits. While not totally devoid of elevation change, the track is relatively flat. What distinguishes the place the most is the combination of plenty of long straights heading into heavy braking zones. With it being built in 1996, it has most of the qualities you'd expect from a modern road course, including flat curbs, a fair amount of runoff, and multiple pit complexes. Oddly, because of the oval, the track includes night lighting for a portion of the road circuit. Though there isn't much notable about most of the turns, one of the more distinctive corners is the final chicane on the Grand Prix course. Leading out of a tunnel that returns you to the oval infield, it's kinked on entry and it tightens greatly at the second apex. This makes pushing the limits of this corner extremely tough, and it often catches drivers out. Though international series such as IndyCar and MotoGP have held rounds at the track, today it is mainly used for local open wheel and GT series. Still, the one-of-a-kind experience offered to drivers and fans at this circuit is sure to keep people coming back for years to come. Well, Adam, this is going to be an interesting one based on the layout of this track.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Twin Ring Motegi may look like a straight circuit from the top, but this legendary circuit is anything but, with a fairly wide track surface, tons of curves, and grass on every side. This nearly 3-mile or 4.8-kilometer 14-turn circuit is one of the most challenging of this era of race car. It's hard to say who will be the most comfortable here, with the abrupt inclination changes, aggressive curves, and slick underpasses giving grip challenges to the Nissans, and the tight flowing exits, downhill braking zones, and many lower medium speed corners without baking, taxing the Audi's front axle. As if it wasn't hard enough to wrestle the cars around here, they have to do it together in multiclass, and my goodness has this track produced chaos over the seasons. With an often changing racing line punctuated by many just a little too short linkages between the turns, the best places to pass are the long back and front straights, and quite frankly anywhere else where an Audi isn't cutting in front of you. The biggest danger zones are anywhere the road course cuts under the oval, as well as the S's towards the middle of the lap, as these portions of the track have the least grip for both classes. It takes a quick mind and even quicker hands to take a win here at Motegi, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone can topple our championship shoo-ins for today, Joe.
Absolutely. Speaking of the championship shoo-ins, as I mentioned, one has been crowned already. Hugh Haycox cannot be caught from here since it's 25 points for a win. That's it. Fabian Jungbluth is too far back with only 2 rounds left. Ironically, with Hugh only taking first place or 0 points all season, he had a 5th place last time to wrap it up, of all things. So that was a little bit of a damp squib to the end of things for him, but that means that the pressure is off, so drivers can take risks to maybe try and take wins away from him further along. And plus, look at how close of a fight it is between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So they could wind up switching around for that 2nd place. We'll see who fights for the scraps, but going to be that situation as well coming to the last round, most likely here in the GTOs, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. With 7 wins, 1 second place, and a DNF, as well as a couple of no-shows, Nico Leskala still holding a commanding lead over Javier Del Olmo. 34 points means 5th or better will win him the championship today. Ian Haycox is still within striking distance of Javier Del Olmo if Javier has a bad day today, but that's going to be a real challenge for him to finish that out at the end of the season. Escaleta Niemi definitely within striking distance, only 10 points back, with Doug Cloud 20 points back of Esco for 4th and 5th as well. Andreas Schuster's only 10 points back of Doug Cloud. Lots of 10-point gaps around here. And then Jamie Hamill-Smith, very close to Andreas Schuster, so look for 6th and 7th to possibly be swapping today. Felipe Zavoy, Toby Kortaniemi, and Kurt Crum are all duking it out for the 8th position, only 1 point separating them each.
As for today's race details, it's pretty much like all the others that we've seen this season. They've been doing a lot of their sprint races. We'll get the endurance round next time out at Daytona. So only 40 minutes for this one. Open setup in this series. I imagine driver is going to try and get a little bit of wing in there, but while still keeping some straight line speed in case they do get stuck behind a slower car ahead. No spare car, and as was mentioned, it's mostly gravel and grass runoff around here. In fact, I don't think there is any paved runoff areas that they have available to them. They have a drive-through penalty at 17 incidents and a disqualification at 25, so they do have to watch out how much they do tick off exits off the course, but again, not expecting that to be too much of a drama. It takes a bit to get around here in these cars, and in fact, we're only just getting the first laps in amongst our field. Aaron Humphrey, who is trying to take that second away from Jungbluth, has managed to put himself in 4th, but we're waiting on Fabian to set a time.
Yeah, H.R. Sintez Galindo currently with the provisional pole. Hugh Haycox, as is expected this season, jumps up to provisional pole by nearly a quarter second, so quite a quick time for him for sure. The Audis are just now starting to cross the line, starting with Ian Haycox and then followed by Arturas Kundelis, who has become a regular in this series. It's nice to see Arturas showing up more often. Arturas pipping Ian Haycox by about a quarter of a second himself. Jack David Spickett third across the line.
Here's Del Olmo. Let's see what he can do on his first flying lap as he crosses the line. It takes a bit to get down to it here. It's not early. It's all the way where the start line is, which is a bit unusual for a track of this nature. And it's a 47.7. Oh, he's faster than Kundelis and Haycock. So Del Olmo looking good today.
Yeah, that's 6/10 faster, nearly 7. That's a very quick time from Javier. But of course, we haven't seen Yuko set his time yet. Neither have we seen it from Escaleta Niemi. We also have a couple of newer names in here. We have Linus Pechkovicius, Tom Vaitas, Nicholas Klisch, and Fernando Matos joining us today in the Audi class. So good to see a couple of new names who are going to give us a little bit of a surprise, a little bit more salt to spread around for some seasoning in this race.
Ooh, Hugh Haycox failed his second lap. He had an off, so he's out of it. Sintez Galindo did not improve, though, so not going to see him jump up to the top spot. It'll take about 0.4 of a second, nearly half a second, for Laust Olsen to manage to take the pole away. Can he do it here? He sits in 3rd currently, but this is going to be a big leap. It's looking close. He will probably improve here, but will it be enough? A 34.7 is just shy, but he's on the front row.
Absolutely. Laust Olsen with a great qualifying. We talked about this a couple of seasons ago, Joe, that Laust, he needed to improve his qualifying, and then we've recently talked about him saying his consistency, and this season he's been bringing both together, and he's got himself at least one win this season, I believe. So just great to see drivers continue to improve over the course of the seasons.
Jungbluth only down in 8th, though, after his second lap. He did jump ahead of Humphrey, so that'll be good news for him. As Krejcik is finishing up lap number 2, he sits 7th place. I'm showing him just about looking like he might tick a 10th or 2 off of his lap time as he comes through the final chicane now. A very, very tricky corner, this one. And it looks like he executes it fairly well, and he's clean onto the front stretch. Will this jump him up the order? He crosses with a 135.4. And unfortunately, that's a little too little of an improvement for him to be able to climb up the order.
Devin Donaghy going to cross the line here, trying to improve from a 149.9, improves to 149.3, jumping up to 8th position. So a good starting position for Devin today. So Yeah, this is going to be an interesting grid for sure. We do have some people who didn't complete their qualifying times: Felipe Zavoy, Time Vithas, and Nicholas Klisch. But Yuka Leskala up at the top of the Audi field by nearly half a second.
Jay Walsh looks like he's going to be the last one to be able to complete qualifying, and he actually just went off course. So he is done with qualifying before he reaches the line. And that means we have Hugh Haycox as our pole sitter. Laust Olsen will start to his outside, and Heitor Sintes Galindo will be P3. Matthias Hovdal starts fourth, followed by Timothy Vaughn in fifth position. Seamus Power, P6 for him, then sees Martin Krejcik with seventh, and Fabian Jungbluth, as I reported, in eighth position. Aaron Humphrey, P9 for him, is followed by Timothy Reed, rounding out your top 10. Tommy Kiliokuyala in the 11th spot is followed by Romain Bello in 12th, and Brendan Lim in 13th. Tim Walkinson on the outside of that row. Then you've got Tim Yonk in 15th and Jason Dunnington, the last driver to have set a time. For the rest of the grid, Jason Clapper, Jeff Groff, Kurt Clapper, Jay Walsh, and Jarek Evans did not set lap times.
And then we get to the Audis with Yuka Leskala taking half a second out of Javi Del Olmo for pole position. Arturas Gundalis lining up in third today with Ian Haycox next to him on row 2. Row 3 goes to Escaleta Niemi and Jack David Spickett, with Doug Cloud and Devin Donaghy on row 4. Rounding at your top 10 is Linus Petkavicius, and then we got Franco Scurry in the 10th position. 11th place is going to be Francois Demers with Cam Porter in 12th position on the next slide. Jamie Hamill-Smith's going to start off in 13th, with Emerson Gaudin in 14th position and Daniel Forte lining up in 15th. Bjorn Ackerman's going to start off 16th spot, with Benjamin Luke in 17th, Fernando Matos in 18th spot, with Felipe Zavoy in 19th. And then we've got Tom Vithas and Nicholas Klisch rounding out your 21 cars in the GTO field. That's an even split, Joe, 21 and 21 for 42 total.
Which will still keep this place plenty busy, especially with the changes in direction on the racing line. And the drivers are just about finished gridded up out there today. It's also pretty decent conditions from what I can see weather-wise, Adam. Not too hot, not too cold, and just a little bit of wind.
Yeah, an 8-mile-an-hour wind is definitely enough to affect the Nissans if they were to get up to any sort of decent speed. But as we talked about, this place is hard to get any speed up, which means that it's hard to get any tire temperature. I'd expect to see the GTP struggling to get tire temperature up over the first couple of laps. That means we're likely to see a couple of spins, some people getting off track into the grass, and the grass does cool down your tires these days. So, it's definitely something you got to be careful of. Also, with the new retexturing of the grass and its new feel offline, this is the first time we've been to Motegi since iRacing has implemented that, and that is more likely to pull drivers off track. So this will be interesting to see how the cars behave when they do reach the edges of the track.
Yeah, going to be a lot more bumpy if you find yourself going off into the green stuff as Hugh Haycox leads them off. Again, last time out was the first time he did not take 25 points or 0 when he races, finishing 5th on the field. I'm sure he'd like to correct that aberration, make sure that he finishes on the top spot again. But will Laust Olsen be able to challenge him? Or Heitor Sintes Galindo, who fell short of the championship this time, be able to maybe try and pick up the pace? He hasn't been as quick as Hugh lately, and his consistency, unfortunately, unable to try and challenge Haycox so far. But they're out of the final turn. It's Hugh's chance to decide when he wants to go, and he's going to hold them for quite some time. Now he starts to go. Good start for Haycox as Laust Olsen drops back just a little bit, and Sintes Galindo is going to try to send it in as well as they go into turn 1. Heitor is going to get second place away, but he's going to get turned around. Both of them come together, causing them to scatter. Thankfully, most are able to get around the outside. Let's go to the GTOs.
Yuka Leskala to have to navigate his way around the wrecked Heitor and Laust, able to do so, but it was a good jump from Yuko over Javier Del Olmo. Arturas Gundalis challenged Del Olmo through the last couple of turns and into the backstretch, but look at how fast Del Olmo gains on braking. He's right to the back bumper of Yuko, who's got a loose car set up, so it's going to take him a little bit longer to get going, but it's a fairly clean start for the Audis.
Well, the two very cars that I had earmarked as maybe the ones that could challenge Hugh Haycox are out of it immediately. And these poor Audis are already plugged up behind some of the slower GTPs. Jarek Evans now trying to pull away as they should have better pace, but it's always a bit nerve-wracking if they're that close.
And Joe, we've already had our first wreck under the bridge. Franco Scurry went a little bit wide before the first bridge and actually ended up making contact with, I believe that was Jamie Hamill-Smith and Franco Demers. So they're both in the back, and it looks like Franco's actually taken a tow.
That is a big shame. So Franco's usually a very popular character. No, he's still on track. But yeah, he's going to be way behind them now.
Oh no! Oh no! That's Hubbard Elmo that made contact with Jay Walsh, a slow GTP. And that's going to put... Oh my goodness, that is... Javier's wrecked now.
He's out of it. So Kundalis gets promoted into third, and some of the recovering GTPs get into him. I think that was actually Laust Olsen right there that clattered into him.
Wow, there's going to be some very frustrated people in the forums. I know we say this almost every week, but this time, some of these incidents don't need to happen, and so that's going to be a big, unfortunate moment for Javier, who is really trying to... he's not really under threat for second position, but this is definitely a stressful moment. Let's see the replay here. Here he comes, and I believe that Jay Walsh just doesn't get on the throttle as early as Javier expects him to.
Spins him up a little bit.
Yeah.
Car starts to turn, and with it going a little bit slower, the four-wheel drive in that two-car giving much more grip, sends him off. Doesn't hit too hard, though.
That was Escalantaniemi who ended up bouncing, getting a lot of front left suspension damage, unfortunately. So, yeah, our front-running Audis have definitely had some excitement, to say the least.
Well, that promotes Ian Haycox into third, so he's gained a little bit from that, but Letinimi in fourth now. Doug Cloud, who's had an excellent season, is in the top 5 as well. But there's been no contest over in the prototypes. Hugh Haycox is stretched away by about 3 seconds over Hovdal. There you can see how massive of a gap it is, and we're only finishing lap 2.
Yeah, so a lot of our battles have been broken up in both classes. There's a couple still going on right now. This one for 6th between Martin Krajcik and Aaron Humphreys. Is one. Oh no, Timothy Reed's around. Like I said, cold tires.
Spun it on his own, just touched the grass coming out of the turn, and everybody really having to get out of the way as they were exiting out of that chicane. Sometimes it can be hard to see out of there, and thankfully I don't think anybody else hit him, but it was close.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone just trying to recover at this point, still racing along. Looking at the battle, I believe this is between Jungbluth, Krajcik, and Humphrey going through the first couple of left-handers. It looks like Jamie Hamill-Smith has gone around the Audis as well, another cold tires victim.
But this battle right here could be important because Humphrey now only separated by Martin, and Fabian, who he is chasing in the points, is within sight. So can he manage to overtake Martin and get up to his goal? Martin is just fending him off pretty nicely. They come down into turn 9, but it's still early stages in this race. And Jungbluth, despite being a little bit off the apex there, is much faster than the pair of them through 9.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes alternate lines are a better way through the corner, especially at the start of this race. And remember, with the new line making that you can do around here in iRacing, definitely opportunities to try and improve, try and build some rubber on a more preferred racing line than the one that's expected. So we might see some of the drivers taking some alternate lines to try and build up rubber for some passing opportunities. But right now, Jungbluth holding on well to that 4th position over Krajcik and Humphreys.
So they stay as they are. Jungbluth 4th, Krajcik 5th, and Humphrey in 6th position. They have yet to meet the traffic of the GTOs for the first time. In fact, they still have a fair bit of the lap before they reach them. Maybe 2 more laps before they get up to the back of that field. So they have time to focus on one another. Let's go over the GTOs, though, as we hop on board, watching the fight coming down with Cam Porter chasing on the back of Emerson Gaudin.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam got that new racing seat going for him this season. It's been awesome to see him in that seat. It's definitely a lot more rigid for him, helping him plow ahead. Just love the the aggressiveness and also the humility of Cam. Cam is a very strong driver, definitely a driver who sits in the top 10 most of the time, but definitely enjoys the drive, but definitely enjoys complimenting his competitors as well.
He's out there for a good time, doesn't want to take anybody out on the track. He wants a good, clean race. But Cam still sits behind Gaudin by about half a second. We talked about how hard it is to pass. I was expecting that more for the GTPs who have the aero wash, but these Audis have really gone apart from each other. There's hardly anybody close to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So the closest battles between David Donaghy and Linus Petvicius for the seventh position, rather. Cam, though, closing up decently well on the back of Emerson Gaudin, as he's a little out of position right now.
Yeah, Gaudin actually up 5 spots from where he started. Clearly has made some overtakes, maybe amongst the attrition that we saw early on as the red, white, and black of Cam Porter chases the blue and white of Emerson, and he's very good on the brakes in a 9. I'll give Cam that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam right on the back, and now he's going to take a look to the inside, diving to the inside on the brakes hard, trying to make that pass work. But these sweeping turns here around Motegi, so challenging. But look at this, a little bit wide goes Emerson. That allows Cam to come back at him, but they're both side by side going into one of the harder braking zones. Look at this, Cam ducks behind for a little bit more draft, jumps out, and here we go into the hard braking zone, downhill turn. It's a sweeping right-hander, and Cam just can't get the nose in.
Doesn't quite work this time, but he's clearly threatening. Let's see if he finds the right opportunity within the next lap as they complete lap 4 now. And that's not a GTP that's lapping them. That's Jarek Evans still trying to get back past all of them. Oh, big look down into turn 1. This is a hard one to make a pass, surprisingly. But he gets the car woed up, takes the apex away, but he's got to get enough of the throttle down on the exit. It's a drag race coming down into 3.
Jarek's trying to find his way by, thinking better of it. Cam actually backs out of it, doesn't want to go side by side with Emerson. And who's that off? That's the 25.
Timothy Reed again. And again, it's a self-spin.
Oh, this is no, Donaghy who's off.
Oh, no, I was looking at the wrong thing here. And the 25, out into the grass. That was, looks like through 3 and 4.
Absolutely. So with him off, that actually puts Hugh Haycox passing a couple of those Audis right now. Here's the battle between Kraytrick and Humphrey as they're trying to duke it out. This 3-way battle for 4th has gotten a little tight at times.
Yeah, Humphrey has been a lot closer to Kraytrick, though, than Martin has been to Fabian. So I'm willing to bet that we're going to see this green car make an overtake before Martin can manage to get that Toyota livery Nissan up to Fabian.
And Joe, I can report Matthias Hovdahl has some major left rear damage. I'm not sure where he got it. It was a couple of laps ago, but he's carrying some significant left rear damage that's going to make it a lot harder for him to try and catch Hugh Haycox.
He's right now about 3.7 seconds back. So he lost a bunch in the first lap, but then hasn't lost nearly as much since then, now that they've really gotten these things settled in. And look at this. Now we're getting into some of the traffic here. And they'll have to carefully try and pick their way past these cars, make sure and make themselves predictable.
Absolutely. The best thing you can do as a slower class is to just drive your racing line. And unless those GTPs make it very clear that they're coming through on the line, just drive your line, don't move over for them. That's how Hugh Haycox is being well communicated with right there. He's just sneaking to the inside of Jamie Hamill-Smith, Felipe Savoy, Timothy Reed trying to come through as well. Matthias Hovdahl trying to chase down Hugh, but Hugh is making good work of this traffic right now.
That pass that we saw ahead of them was Donaghy overtaking Francois Demers. So that was putting Devin back into the top 10 after his excursion out into the gravel. Hugh Haycox just taking them one at a time and doing so quite nicely. He's hardly been held up at all, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty easy to communicate where you're going around here, so no surprise to see him making those moves quite quickly and smoothly. Now we come up to the S's. This is the most dangerous part, but here we go. The battle for 3rd. Very tight now, as it seems like, Fabian Jungbluth has closed right up on the back of Seamus Power due to the traffic. It's now a 4-way fight for 3rd.
Interesting stuff. And Fabian Jungbluth Didn't have the greatest of qualifying, but he's definitely making up for it here, and that seems to be something that he does do pretty well, is manage the races and try and stay out of trouble. But this is going to be a difficult one to try and avoid the chaos with the battle ahead of them. Hamel-Smith, Savoy, Del Olmo, Reed, all in a line. Well, Reed's actually from their class, but here we go. Gets a nice opportunity here, does Seamus, to try and get away from them. Jungbluth is going to be able to slice through, and Krajcik does, but Humphrey does not. And Del Olmo in the wrong place at the wrong time. Jungbluth gives a little bit of a look, and Seamus Power shuts the door by the time they get into the chicane.
Absolutely. Aaron Humphrey makes a little bit of contact with Felipe Savoy in the background as well as they were coming onto the front straightaway. But here comes a nice pass opportunity possibly for Jungbluth on Seamus Power. It's a hard place to make it, but Jungbluth is going to send it anyway.
Can't quite get down to the inside of turn one. Off of two. It's another bit of a stretch before they enter into three, and nobody able to take advantage here. Just in front of him, Francois going to stay off to the outside, it looks like. Yeah, just leaves enough of a racing room. Meanwhile, up to Ian Haycox, who is chasing on Kundalis. This is for second in the GTOs.
Absolutely. This is a tight race for the two of them. And I can report that Jamie Hamel-Smith got pushed offline, as well as the 21 machine. So Kundalis now duking it out with Ian Haycox for trying to hang on to that second position, as Ian's coming hard and fast on this track.
He is indeed hopping on board with one of our regular onboard cams here, Ian Haycox. And gonna just stay behind him at least for the time being. Kundalis not close enough for an attack. Tinami just behind him has also not lost touch. Three-way battle for the second step on the podium. And back onto the main straight as he starts to run through the gears. Just doesn't get a good enough exit. Kundalis looks like he's looking good in the traction zones.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is actually putting pressure on Haycox from Letinami, who's trying a couple of different alternate lines to get a good run at Haycox. Haycox coming, he's going to look towards the regular racing line, knowing that Letinami would have to dive very deep in order to make that pass around him. They've got Hugh Haycox coming up behind. Last week, Ian and Hugh got together in a wreck, and so it'll be I don't think the two of them have any bad blood, but, you know, it's worth mentioning.
Down into turn 5, and Hugh's going to just kind of wait behind Dad briefly. He sees him in the mirror, lets him pass, and look at that, has to weave on the inside of one, around the outside of the other, but he matches it up perfectly.
Yeah, and you got to do that to get through, and the GTOs know that you're going to give it a shot, so they're going to give you as much room as they can without losing time to their competitors behind. So Kundalis having to move over a little bit for Hugh Haycox, but still clear communication between the two of them.
Good to see what we've been seeing so far. Had a little bit of a chaotic first lap, but since then, seems like the drivers are getting things under control as they exit back onto the support pit straights there. We take a look at Heitor Sentes Galindo, I believe. Yeah, up to 11th since his early wreck. Where is Laust Olsen?
Still down in 16th, unfortunately. So Laust is the one who got most of the damage from that wreck, and so he's carrying it with him as he's trying to move his way back through the field, but it's going to be a long day ahead of him.
Bit of a wasted opportunity for both of them, I fear. But sometimes that's just how racing goes. You take your lessons and you move on. The number 13, though, has picked up some of those spots because of it. Jungbluth has picked up even more, still up those 4 positions from where he began this race. But it's been flying by. We're getting close to the halfway mark.
Yeah, this race really has flown by. I'm sure it doesn't feel that way for the drivers, but Jungbluth and Krajcik actually swapped positions a couple of laps ago. So back to the way that we are used to seeing them in this race. Jungbluth ahead of Krajcik for now. But now we're seeing them close up on the back of the top 5 in the GTOs. Doug Cloud, Jack David Spickett duking it out for 5th position. This could hold up this battle for 4th in the GTPs.
Spickett's going to give room and let them through to the inside. Unfortunately, it's going to be rather costly. Look at how much he falls off the back of Doug Cloud. which Doug probably rather happy about that himself. Spigot, I don't believe, he's not really in the championship hunt here, but Cloud needs points.
We had a gigantic wreck between Jason Dunnington and Jeff Goff. This was for 15th position. This sent Dunningham actually off track such that it auto reset him. So this was quite a dramatic incident.
Not something I've heard of happening often here. So there's Groff, I think, to his inside. Oh, and he spun it across him. Somehow got it rolling, and just at the exact wrong place. He went over the Armco, and that's where you can disappear at this track. I'll note that one down. Not something I think I'll need often, but good to know.
And here's that chaos for 4th position in the GTPs, as that is Timothy Reed up ahead in the GTP trying to make the pass. But look at this. That's Ian Haycock's passing Tom Weidhaus. Lots of multi-class and lap traffic just trying to navigate their way through each other right now.
Yeah, so they're not trying to get a position from Timothy there. They're trying to lap him, and he sees the blue flags for them now. He's going to let them go. Young Blue survives to fight another day, but that definitely was a case of being very aware of your surroundings, as multiple different cars on different laps and different classes are all trying to run their own race, and you need to make sure and be aware of who is doing what as you're going 3 wide around a track like this. Next up for them, it's going to be the leader, Yuko Leskala.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're having a bad day and you're really worried about your incident points, sometimes it's better to just move over and let people go by so you're not in the middle of chaos. The blue flags are advisory here in iRacing, and this is an official series, so there's no additional rules. But Yuko Leskala moving over for the blue flags, letting these two go, not taking the apex, because he himself has about a 5-second lead over Arturas Kundalis for second, so he's got some time he can give up to ensure his safety.
And with how many seasons he's both competed in and then won, I'm pretty sure he knows the deal here on how it's best run around here to try and ensure he captures another win. He might be able to get it easily with a 5th place, but I'm sure he wants to cap it off with a victory. Meanwhile, Jungbluth still under threat from Krajcik, but not Humphrey, who seems to be struggling a little bit more with the traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing to mention about Yuko Leskala. Yuko is the kind of driver who definitely takes the philosophy, if you're not first, you're last, very seriously. Yuko Leskala is not satisfied unless he's winning races, and so he fights very hard to do so at every stretch, regardless of whether it's a good idea or not. But what's crazy is that philosophy works for him. It's one of the things that has given him the aggressiveness and the competitiveness to take these wins. And back when he and Phil Lake were duking it out for the lead of the championships a couple of seasons ago, it was impressive to see how long they could run side by side and still win races, the two of them, even though they were losing multiple tenths of a second per lap.
Yeah, the pace that Yuko has is just unbelievable. Hopefully we get Phil back out here someday soon. But obviously at times you need a little bit of breaks to take care of the rest of life. Since this is all basically weekend warriors, nobody out here is a professional doing this currently. But the number 1 is still P1 and continues to streak away. It's now up to 6.5 seconds. And that was Jason Clapper just going by. Jason doing his traditional not qualifying and running through the field. He's up 8 spots.
Yeah, Jason doing some nice training, nice practice right now with making those passes, getting that progress. And sometimes it's just more enjoyable to start from the back and make some passes on track. So Jason Clapper, as you said, doing his traditional move. Another battle that's going on track is between Aaron Humphrey and Timothy Vaughn. Those two duking it out for 6th position right now, as Timothy Vaughn trying to recover from not so great a start of the race.
Yeah, and Aaron Humphrey is unfortunately fallen well off of that fight that he was trailing before. The Kiwi behind him, Timothy Vaughn, has been just filling up his mirrors and trying to wait for the right chance to maybe get an opportunity, but he hasn't seen any forthcoming as we still watch Jason Clapper around these last few turns. There is Sintez Galindo. He is caught up to Brendan Lim. That will put him back into the top 10 if he manages that overtake.
Yeah, and overtakes are hard around here because of how short these chutes are and how sweeping these turns are. They're not actually hairpins. It'd be a little bit easier if this actually was a street circuit because, like, I swear, the track map really does not do justice to how this track feels to drive. It's all sweeping, slow to medium speed corners that are really hard to get alongside for braking zones. Through the S's they go, Heitor Sintes Galindo and Brendan Lim. And as you can see, another what would normally be a hairpin, but because of the profile of the track, it's 2 lanes wider on the whole thing with pretty wide radius around these corners, which makes it hard to pass.
Almost has it underneath him coming out of turn 10. He's going to duck in, get a little bit of that slipstream to try and help his speed. That worked a treat because now he's side by side. They come down into the braking much, much later for Sintes Galindo. That is job done. He's back into the top 10.
And he's got about 7 seconds to get up to Jason Clapper in 18 minutes. He might be able to do it. So we'll keep our eyes or our ears or, just ourselves on Heitor Sintes Galindo as we watch his progress go forward.
Indeed. Back to Humphrey versus Vaughn. Seems like he's not given up to Timothy quite yet, so he still retains that 6th position. Credit to him if he can keep him behind. Like we said, it tends to be job 1 here. What'd you see?
About 30 seconds ago, Hovdal just had a big moment with one of our lapped GTOs, Daniel Forte. Forte was in the braking zone struggling, and I think it just caught Hovdal out. No real incident between the two of them, but that's definitely slowed Hovdal down. He's now 11 seconds behind Haycox. But look at this, battle still going on, close, nose to tail, almost a little bit of contact between the 9.
Oof. Things getting a little bit more pressurized down between the pair of them. Up in front, they're coming across Timothy Vaughn now. Or excuse me, Timothy Reed, rather. Other Timothy that is still being lapped consistently by a lot of these cars. He's not really trying to get in the way. He's just trying to get some safety rating back, and there's a lockup in front of him. You can see the puff of smoke. Ben Luke, who is trying to stay off to the left-hand side. He lets one through, and unfortunately, Vaughn is not willing to risk it. He sits and waits and gives up the couple tenths of a second to Aaron. Well, that splits them apart as well. Going to go back to Fabian Jungbluth, and Seamus Power still sees that number 10 all over him. What's interesting is it's not only Matthias Hovdal who's a long ways away from our leader, 11 seconds, like you said. It's still...
That was a gigantic lunge down the inside from Fabian Jungbluth on Seamus Power, and he just caught Seamus sleeping and made the pass.
I did not expect that. The only thing that made me realize I was looking away at the timing sheets. Oh, little contact between them. They both get away with it, but now Seamus is going to lose another spot to Martin Krejcirek, who goes the long way around to turn 8. Nice job on that one through the marbles, and he'll move into 4th. Well, that suddenly came alive very quickly. But yeah, God, he was so far back, I was not expecting a pass attempt at all there.
Quite frankly, Joe, I can't believe he got it stopped, to be honest with you. I thought he was going to plow into the side of Power, but Power saw it coming at the very last possible moment and was able to just stay straight and allow Jungbluth to get slowed down, because if he turned in on Jungbluth, it would have been a wreck. So
this is great for Jungbluth, as Aaron Humphreys still stuck down in 6th. Fabian's moved up into the podium once again and is now seeing if he could try and get himself far enough away that he is going to be good to try and wrap up this P2 for the season. I don't think this finish would do it, but it'll be very helpful. And there's a big problem coming off of 2 for Krejcirek.
Yeah, Krejcirek a little bit wobbly coming off of 2. Those rear tires starting to scream enough here as we come into the last 15 minutes of this race. And look at the pressure Seamus Power is putting on. But Joe, it's been awesome to see Jungbluth drive at the capability that we know he has. He used to challenge for championships, and this season, had Hugh not been so dominant, Jungbluth would be in that position of challenging for a championship. So it's great to see him back on form.
Absolutely. And Jungbluth has chalked up a lot of podiums over the years, so it would not be the first. In the background, that was Krajcik losing the spot back to Power. So looks like Seamus into fourth once again. Traffic still making things tricky out here. But yeah, I don't know what it is now, but at the start of the season, or no, excuse me, at about 7 races into the season, I believe it was up to 26 podiums for Jungbluth.
Look at this. Seamus Power with a decent run off the corner. Jungbluth had to wait for Felipe Savoy to get off the corner. The question is, does Power have enough overspeed to make the pass on the downhill? The answer is he's not going to give it a shot. Just a little bit of pressure to Jungbluth trying to make him late break through this corner. It's a very slippery one. Jungbluth, though, wise to the move and a wily driver himself, does not allow Power's pressure to upset his racing line. But look at this. Power with a good run once again. This one might be a look up the inside in turn 1.
It is indeed, and it almost looks like Jungbluth gave that up a little bit. He's going to let it fall down to fourth. His main rival behind him in the points is both Humphrey and Sintez Galindo, and Sintez Galindo is even farther away. So right now he's sitting pretty. This fourth place is still good enough for him.
Absolutely. So while this battle separates a little bit of contact between Timothy Vaughn and Martin, and I believe that was Aaron Humphreys, and this has collected Timothy Reed as well. Everyone's off. That was Jamie Hamill-Smith, who unfortunately was involved in that as well. That's going to lose Vaughn quite a few positions.
Yeah, it was Timothy finally trying to make a move on Aaron down into turn 3. It just went south in a hurry, and unfortunately, many had to check up or go off track to try and avoid it. Jason Clapper up 11 positions now and into 6th. Oh, another car off. I didn't quite make out who that was.
I believe that was Jarek Evans, who's been having trouble all race, unfortunately. So he's now in the pits.
He was trying to go slow and let cars by, and actually Martin Krajcik ran into him very, very hard. And I think he's missing his front clip. This is going to be very bad for Krajcik. I'm not sure that he can finish this race without coming into pit lane because he looks extremely slow now.
Yeah, without a front clip, these GTPs basically have the aerodynamics of an Audi, but without the power. So Krajcik, we could see his feet, basically, is what I'm saying. I can see the pedals from here.
Oh, he's going to carry on. He's going to try and gut it out for 12 more minutes. There he goes.
He wants the air conditioning.
He's
No, I can literally see his feet. See those 2 little white dots on the left side? Those are his feet.
Oh my goodness. Behind him though, oh boy, spots are bleeding. I don't think he can make it to the finish on this one. He'll be dead last anyways. That's Timothy Vaughn, Sintez Galindo, and Kaleo Koyula. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Apologies to Tommy, but the 22 currently up into 7th place now. Seems like this is a race where attrition is actually playing a little bit of a factor.
Yeah, and what's surprising is it's fatigue. It seems like it's the long duration of the race is contributing to more mistakes. As we take a look at Escaleta still trying to gain back that position on Ian Haycox, who's holding stoutly to that 3rd spot. But it seems like these drivers are having little lapses of concentration that are causing some of these issues. There's also a couple of unknowns throughout the field that these drivers are trying to be careful about, which is transforming how they race a little bit, which can often, when you get offline here in iRacing now, offline is very slick, very slippery. So no surprise there. But yeah, very tight racing all throughout the field.
So what was a battle for second, Ian Haycox falling away from Arturas Koundalis with 10 minutes left to go. The final quarter of this race, Haycox under threat, but a little bit of damage on the right front for Esko Letaniemi. We don't know if that is hurting the car at all, or the drive of the front wheel, or the handling, but he seems to be managing it well for him to be this close to that number 5 and hoping for a podium today.
Absolutely. So Esko definitely going to start to try and put pressure on to Ian Haycox. The first half of the race went by very quickly for these drivers, and the second half is dragging on a little bit. And we can tell that based upon how the driving is getting to be a little bit of a struggle right now.
So the pair of them looking to try and sort out this podium position down into turn 9. Haycox is strong through here, but he's too strong into the corner, locks it up, goes wide, but he keeps the position. What he had pulled away from Letaniemi disappears in a flash.
Absolutely. Letaniemi's pressure is adding up for sure. Laust Olsen makes it past the damaged Martin Krajcik as well, so Laust is recovering to 11th position. Here comes Hovdal with that left rear damage I was talking about, definitely affecting his straight line speed. He's 14 seconds now behind Hugh Haycox for the lead of this race. But Esco trying to put that pressure onto Ian Haycox, trying to get him to make a mistake, trying to keep him looking at his mirrors at the wrong times.
Damaged or not, Hovdal's still running second, which is kind of amazing. It just shows you the skill of some of these drivers, that the speed differences can be so great from the front to the back of the field. As the number 7 of Kundalis next up to be overtaken by Hovdal.
Let me mention this, Joe. Hovdal is the second fastest driver on track right now, even with the damage he's carrying. So that just goes to show you that he had a lot more in the tank before the damage, and so unfortunately, just the damage taking away his opportunity to challenge Hugh for the lead.
But he times it right, allowing Arturis to get off to the side, and there we go. So, as the drivers find themselves with fewer and fewer laps to try and wrap this up, I mean, the GTOs are close to 2 minutes per lap here, so that's going to go away very fast. The number 4 going to rack up yet another podium. It's been a while since we've seen Hovdal, I think, with a win. Let me see if he's had one this season. No, he's not had one this season, nor a pole, as it's been Hugh Haycox's playground for the most part all the time. Timothy Vaughn managed to dispose of the number 22 and then leave him behind at least a little bit. He's still having to check up behind guys like Petkavicius here, but uses him as a nice little pick and keeps the Finn from being able to attack him. Timothy's maybe trying to do what Aitor Sintez Galindo is doing, which is recover. Sintez Galindo up to 7th and ahead of him by about 2.5 seconds. He had his at the beginning of the race, and Timothy Vaughn was about halfway through.
Absolutely, and Timothy Vaughn doing his recovery as much as he possibly can. Just seeing a lot of drivers who have had trouble today, doing a good job on their recovery drives, being very consistent and being very smooth. And if you don't know how, if you get flustered enough that you can't do a recovery drive in the Camel Series, you're going to have a rough go of it, because 9 times out of 10, your season is going to include at least one recovery drive, if not a couple.
Sad news for fans of Timothy Reed. He had another off. It was enough that he decided there's no point in carrying on, and he's retired the car. So he's now done. Ian Haycox here is still holding on to that 3rd, but Esco is making sure to make him sweat about it, at least for these last few minutes, if he can help it. We're going to hop on board with Esco, looking up ahead at the Englishman.
Absolutely, and the question is, whose car looks smoother right now? Esco is taking it very shallow into the corners, trying to put that pressure on Ian, trying to keep him looking in his mirrors. What that's doing is it's heating up his tires a bit, and what I've been noticed is that Ian has been holding off Esco for long enough at this point that he's not feeling that pressure as much. And so what he's doing is he's allowing Esco to make these deep to make these deep dives into the corners, but then just driving away on exit with the added traction that he has from his tires not being as hot and from running a better racing line. So I think Ian might be feeling a little more comfortable than Esco's trying to make it.
Looks like Krajcik finally gave up the ghost and came in to get the repairs done. By the way, the damage was so great, he was 10 seconds off the pace there. Wow, there is a good visual example of just how shocking these Nissans can be. I had no idea that car was coming around, but Esco probably did, and he just zipped on by in a very narrow part of the track.
Absolutely, and you got to be really careful through that section. It's one of the bigger danger zones because it seems like connecting the 2 portions of the road course was a little bit of an afterthought here. And so they just kind of made this very complicated and challenging little section that connects the 2 portions of the track. And it's one of the hardest places to find speed quite frankly, in the world, in my opinion. And to try and pass in multi-class through there is a real challenge.
And I have to admit, honestly, based on the rest of the track, while I don't like driving that corner, I feel like that is the corner that has the most character out of the rest of this field.
Whoa!
And I don't know who that was, but that's not how you're supposed to face the track.
That's Tom Whitehouse, who looks like he had a little bit of contact, but he misshifted and was tipped by Aaron Humphrey, unfortunately. So he's now in the pits. He might have blown his engine.
He sat there for quite some time before he finally took a tow to pit lane. Let's see. And there is the little touch with Humphrey. Oh, it just bounced him right back on. So that explains why it came so suddenly, as that happened just about in front of our two drivers we were watching at that moment. Big defense here from Ian Haycox. Doesn't feel so safe anymore. But no, this could be a pick. No, he's able to make it down to the apex. That was Tommy and Timothy Vaughn still fighting for 8th. I thought he was going to leave behind the Finn, but no, it seems like Timothy just can't get away from him.
Yeah, and Ian can't get away from Esco either. So Tommy and Timothy both duking it out for that 8th position, and Ian and Esco duking it out for 3rd. Yeah, there's actually quite a few battles going on in the GTPs at this point, with Aaron Humphrey and Aitor Sintes Galindo also duking it out for the 6th position.
Staying with this because it's one of our best battles out there, at least for now, especially for a higher up position. And I can tell you that Sintes Galindo almost managed to get by Humphrey just now down into turn 6. He did give it a good go, but nothing doing. In fact, there's another close moment as the number 5 has to give the apex away a little bit, goes to immediately cover off the inside. No change for position. Traffic not being all that kind to poor Ian.
No, it seems like they're catching Ian in the braking zones and blocking his exits, and that's not allowing him to run away from Esco. But Esco, once again, I think he's worn out those front tires a little bit. He's having a hard time getting to the apex of the corners and staying there. He's tracking wide on exit, which is slowing him down. And if you can't get a good exit around here at Motegi, there's nearly impossible to pass.
Well, we've got 2 laps left to go. Hugh Haycox crossed the line with about 2 minutes 30 left on the clock. There is Aitor Sintes Galindo and Aaron Humphrey just in front of him, holding that 6th position. Aitor is still going to lose a fair few points to Fabian Jungbluth at this rate. And down into the braking of turn 1, not nearly close enough. The number 8 continues to wait, but is going to run out of time at this rate. He's going to have to start making some more aggressive moves.
Yeah, it's going to take a surprise move like we saw from...
Oh, sorry, something happened to Hugh Haycox. Hugh had a half spin, it looks like. Could we get a real quick replay of the number 3? He caught it without hitting anything, but I saw him going slowly, and I saw some smoke, and I knew something was wrong.
Yeah, this is on the exit of the S's here, and we'll see him just track a little bit wide and get his left tires into the dirt off the edge of that curb, and look at him lock it down. Talk about a lesson in holding the brake.
2-foot mash.
Absolutely.
There you go. So he had such a big buffer. It's still at 12 seconds over Hovdal even after that. And that lap, let's see, what did it cost him? He crosses the line now and takes the white flag. Cost him about 3 to 4 seconds, it looks like, over a normal lap.
And it looks like Doug Cloud Escalatanemi and Jack David Spickett are tucked in together with each other for the 4th position in the GTOs, as they're trying to navigate all of the chaos with the GTPs trying to streak by. And Aitor Sintes Galindo and Aaron Humphrey went side by side for a bit. Humphrey getting the better of that battle.
Oh, contact there with the 11. And I think that's one of the clappers.
Let's go Escalatanemi.
So Esco, and unfortunately that's going to cost him that spot to Jack David Spickett. That was Kurt Clapper that unfortunately got into the side of him.
So Esco fell off the back of Ian Haycox and fell into the clutches of Doug and Jack, and now he's down into 6th position. So from 4th to 6th in one lap, that's heartbreaking.
Meanwhile, Hugh Haycox just has a couple more corners to go here before he wraps up yet another victory and further puts himself farther away. He's already a full 2 wins ahead of Fabian Jungbluth in the points. So that is really incredible stuff there. Hugh coming around the final couple turns. It'll be at least 11 to 12 seconds gap that he had despite his spin late in the race over his nearest rival. Another victory this season, number 8 for Hugh Haycox.
Absolutely, and the battle between Fabian Jungbluth and Seamus Power coming into place as Matthias Hovdahl exits the final corner to take second position. Jungbluth, unfortunately, just not able to get Seamus right at the end. Seamus able to get the power down. Jungbluth not able to make that pass. It's going to be third for Seamus, fourth for Jungbluth.
Still valuable points for locking up second in the championship. He won't do it this time around, but Humphrey looking at 6th place behind him. Looks like that will definitely help Fabian. Yuko Leskala comes down the back stretch, and he's got just about the same distance to second place that Hugh Haycox has, about 10.5 seconds to the nearest rival.
Yeah, absolutely. So Yuko Leskala, oh my goodness, of course he is. Careful, Yuko. You don't want to finish with a slowdown penalty because that'll be a 30-second penalty. So he'll have to bleed that one off a little bit here towards the end of this lap. But a nice celebratory spin because he knows what we know. He has won the championship.
That'll do it. That's another in his pocket. I need to add up how many championships he's had at this stage. That's incredible. Ian Haycox survives to take 3rd place despite Letaniemi pressuring him the entire way practically, and gets onto the podium once again. I'll have to check and see how many podiums he's had over the years because he's certainly racked up a few. But that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Twin Ring Motegi. This road course definitely kept the drivers on their toes in the Camel GT series, but Hugh Haycox was able to whomp them all once again, taking his 8th win of the season. He's already wrapped the championship up. Now he's just rubbing salt in the wounds. Hovdal couldn't catch him. He did cut it down to about 10 seconds left towards the end after Hugh had a half spin. Seamus Power seems very ecstatic about finishing on the podium here. Fabian Jungbluth was P4, and Jason Clapper gets a top 5 after starting 17th. Heitor Sentes Galindo, things went awry for him at the very first couple of corners. Slid off the track with Laust Olsen. He finishes 6th. Aaron Humphrey was 7th, and Timothy Vaughn was P8. Tommy Kalio Kuhala in the 9th spot was followed by Brennan Lim in 10th. Then on the next slide, Laust Olsen was only able to recover to 11th after that opening incident. Tim Wilkinson was 12th as Kurt Clapper finished 13th and Tim Yonk 14th. Jeff Groff at one point was involved in a little bit of chaos. He was a lap down in 15th. Krajcik did get back out on course in 17th. And then Timothy Reed, Roman Bello, Jarek Evans, Jason Dunnington, and Jay Walsh all DNF'd.
And then we come to our GTOs with Jukka Leskala taking a commanding win over Arturas Krundelis, who finished in 2nd position. Ian Haycox came home in 3rd, holding off Doug Cloud, who came in 4th. Jack David Spickett in 5th position, and Escalante who was once battling Ian Haycox for that 3rd spot, falls all the way back to 6th. A good outing for Linus Petkovicius. If not his first broadcast race, then his first in a long time. A 7th position for Linus. We got Cam Porter, who finished in 8th position ahead of Devin Donahue, the first car 1 lap down. Emerson Gaudin finishes off in the 10th position with Jamie Hamill-Smith in 11th on the next slide. We got Felipe Zavoy in the 12th position with Bjorn Ackerman finishing in 13th. Daniel Forte in the 14th position with Benjamin Luke, our last finisher. Then we have Tom Vitas, Francois Demers, Javier Del Olmo, Fernando Matos, Nicholas Klisch, and finally Franco Scurry, who did not finish the race.
That takes us to our winner for today, Hugh Haycox. As I said, grabbing another of many victories so far this season. And while this one was a decent gap to Matthias Hovdal, Hugh, we did catch that this wouldn't be counted as a perfect race for you. What happened there at the end?
I think I channeled my inner Yuko. No, I just got on the grass, made a mistake.
It looked a little scary, but again, such was the advantage you'd pulled off. You still were easily ahead of Matthias. We were mentioning as well that you'd wrapped up the championship last week, but it was a bit strange. You had been all or nothing, a 25-point score or 0 in your box all season long, and then you wrap it up with a 5th. Is that a little bit frustrating for you?
Yeah, it was a bit frustrating, but, it happens. Just mistakes on my half and I think Yuko. But yeah, it's what happens, it's racing. But yeah, it's nice to be a 2-time champion. This is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Adding up to the tally, making yourself not just a force for wins, but multiple-time champion. I can tell that you're trying to get as many as you can, but next time out we go to Daytona, where it's going to be tough to try and keep people from riding those coattails. Can you bring it home in the chaos of the super speedway?
Hopefully, yeah. It should be quite fun. 60-minute race in the dark. Poor old Aldis will have a tough time seeing, but it should be quite fun.
Yeah, thankfully, it is relatively well lit for most of the track. Well, Hugh, congratulations on another win, and can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hugh Haycox taking the win here at Motegi. And then up next, I believe, do we have Heitor Sentes Galindo, it looks like, who climbed quite the ways up the order. Adam is talking to him.
Yeah, quite the ways up the order after having that wreck early on with Laust. Yet another victim of the infamous Nissan hitbox, Heitor. But talk to me about your recovery drive today.
Yeah, well, I was unfortunate. There's nothing I could do really, but yeah, these things happen. This racing, so nothing wrong with that. It's a shame that they ran for the championship. Well, let's say P2 in the championship. Hugh already got it. It's almost over, but yeah, it's been quite fun, quite a fun drive, a recovery drive. I had to make a lot of good passes, but yeah, in the end, I think I'm positive with the result, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you definitely should be, considering the fact that you're in the back of the GTP field and clawed your way up to 6th position. It seems like there was a lot of attrition today, a lot of drivers who were struggling with grip out there. It seems like this is one of the more slick tracks, especially for the Nissans. How challenging is it to drive out there?
That's a very good point, actually. In the Japanese tracks, usually I usually have like a lot of trouble with the Nissan. I don't know, maybe it's the climate, the humidity or something. But yeah, it's been quite slick today. But the setup was today very on point, thanks to Laos for that. And yeah, it's been a lot of attrition. So I'm very surprised, honestly, because well, I would say okay, let's go for a top 10 at least, and I finished P6. So yeah, lots of trouble. But yeah, in the end, it's been a good race after all.
Absolutely. And talk to me a little bit about the traffic, because we saw we didn't see as many interclass incidents as we're used to seeing, I guess, in the Camel series today.
Yeah.
But that being said, it seemed like there was still significant time to be lost or gained with the traffic today. So how was it out there?
Compared to several tracks over there, on top of my head, Bathurst or Mid Ohio, this is very friendly for multiclass. There's not many tight sections in which you need to wait for an Audi. And yeah, this is a very good track for multiclass, honestly. It's a shame that I don't like it as much. Maybe because I don't I don't like the flow. I don't know. This is a personal opinion, of course. But yeah, it's a very good track for multiclass, and I'm glad that we're racing here, honestly.
Well, not liking the flow might be a personal opinion, but it seems one that's fairly ubiquitous. But Aitor, congratulations on a top 10 finish, P6 today. Is there anyone that made this possible for you?
You guys for the broadcast as usual, and loud for the setup. It was very important today. And yeah, shout out to my family, friends are watching. And yeah, thanks guys, and see you next week on Daytona.
That was Aitor Sentes Galindo, P6 in the GTPs, and Joe has caught up with Cam Porter, who finished in the top 10, P8 in the GTOs.
Yep, and Cam, it looked like we didn't get to cover you as much because there was some good racing mid-pack in the GTPs, but you obviously had your nice little battle here mid-race coming down into turn 1. Talk to us a little bit about what it was like on this Japanese track.
Well, I quite liked Motegi. I think it was a pretty successful race for me today, even though it was a little quiet in the second half. I had a minor off track early on, just a silly mistake. I missed the shift and then went wide in the corner and went on the grass. But I was able to get back on and have a good fight with Emerson, so that was pretty fun. And then I fell off the back of Linus, but the gap was 5 seconds for like the last half of the race, so I figured if I hadn't made that mistake, I might have been able to have a good fight with him, for the 7th spot. So overall, I enjoyed the race today, so it was successful.
Oh, glad that you had a good time out there, and obviously finishing within the top 10 always a plus, especially with how steep things are at this track. Next time out, we're heading off to Daytona. If you can maybe qualify in that top 10, think maybe you can cling to the leaders and hold on for the race?
That's a good question. Qualifying is not my strong suit, although I don't make qualifying sets. I usually just use my race set. So my qualifying pace is usually my race pace. So I end up picking up some speed in the race, I think, anyway, because of various factors. The closeness of the competition makes me a little bit faster, it seems. And I don't do a heck of a lot of practice, so I usually end up picking up pace throughout the race. This race today, for example, I qualified just barely in the 49s, and then by the end of the race I was almost touching the 48s, so I did pick up a little bit of pace. So looking forward to Daytona. I enjoy that track, and I might be able to hang with the top runners if I can just stay in that draft.
Well, we've seen you in the 49s. We've seen you in Camel a lot. Any chance you're ever going to hop over to the 79s?
I do race 79s. Last season, I raced a full season of 79s. Unfortunately, I never make the top split, so that's why you haven't seen me in the broadcast.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, I enjoy that racing that car also, and I've just been doing other races this season. My brother and I do a different endurance series on Sundays now, so I miss the 79 broadcast race. But thanks a lot for the consistent, great broadcast, guys. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was Cam Porter finishing 8th today and wrapping up our interviews with a big thank you as well to the Camel community as a whole for coming back for another season of coverage. Thanks again to the team today, Adam, Rob, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. But don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next race at Daytona will be March 4th at noon Eastern, and be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.